Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. It is 3 p.m. UK time here. Teddy is here. He's first. Good morning from Texas. And Anna is here from Puerto Rico. Wonderful to have you both here on this very fine, what is it, Thursday? Thursday today. Very nice sunny day here in sunny Cheshire in the UK. Good day, says Anne Holloway. Good to have you here too. We're going to do a design session today. I'm going to take some ideas that people have sent in and I am going to turn them into designs. And you can watch me do that. Or rather, I'm going to walk you through the process that I've been through. I've prepared a few things ahead of time, so we're not starting from complete scratch. Rick is here from Florida. Mike from Texas. And Walrus Industries, also in Florida. Bo is here in Ohio. Eddie's here. Kev is here from Nottingham, I believe that is. So good stuff. And Raymond from Baltimore, Maryland. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And Annie from NYC. Cool. So yeah, today that's what we're going to do. Let me share my presentation here and we will get into it. Dave says it's hot and sunny here in Las Vegas, and Steve says still in Toronto, as if I can go anywhere else at the moment. Yes, I feel your pain, Stephen. I'm very familiar with that sensation, not being able to go anywhere. And yeah, I'd like to go somewhere too, but we are where we are. So let's dive into it today. Your ideas, my designs. That's the plan. Do like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're watching on YouTube, you can go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. That would be great. Ask questions as we go through today. I will keep an eye on the comments, and you can ask questions as we go. Don't need to save them for the end, but I will leave some time at the end as well if you want to ask questions there. And do make sure you join my mailing list, michaelessick.com/live. You will get free tips and tricks, free t-shirt design tips. You'll get access to a load of good stuff just by signing up, and it's completely free. So there's no reason not to go ahead and join that if you haven't already. Is this for you today? If you're a t-shirt designer, if you're trying to come up with ideas, if you're trying to improve your designs, if you're trying to build a brand and a business around your art and around your unique style and around your artwork, then I think this is going to be helpful. This is going to be more of a design session today. So we're going to dive into specific, some specific concepts and trying to turn them into nice looking t-shirt designs. And I'm going to walk you through my kind of thought process, the process I went through turning these ideas into designs. And yeah, we'll just kind of talk through a lot of that. And hopefully I think that will be helpful for you today. Rabi, hello from Morocco. You are the best. Thank you. And Amira is here from an extremely hot Georgia. Cool. Nice to have you here, Amira, too. Yeah, so that's the plan today. I thought I'd just walk through a few quick principles before I dive into the actual ideas. So, yeah, what we're going to talk about today is I asked yesterday in my mailing list for people to send in ideas. And the idea here is that you will send me some concepts that you're not really sure maybe how to realize or how to render and turn into a final design. And I'm going to do that part for you and show you, you know, kind of the process that I'd walk through. So this is not me stealing your ideas. That's not what this is. I'm not going to turn these into designs and then upload them to my Redbubble accounts. This is purely educational. I'm not going to upload these designs or anything like that. That's not the deal. So hope that's clear. And also, of course, you know, the value of an individual idea is not humongous. There's, you know, if you want to make a living from this kind of thing, from coming up with funny ideas and turning them into nice designs and licensing your art through various channels, you need a lot of different designs. So, you know, I have the same fears of everybody else. So what if I share this idea? Will it get copied? You know, it was my idea. Will it make $1 million for someone else and I'll miss out? It very rarely works out like that. Like I you know, I don't have any single idea that's made millions, but collectively my portfolio makes me, you know, 6 figures a year because it's such a big portfolio of designs. So this is not about, finding one design that's fantastic. There's no such thing. This is about how do we take those ideas in our heads? How do we turn them into designs which are likely to make sales and more likely to, get found and more likely to connect with an audience so that we can build a strong portfolio, a steady, stable portfolio of designs over time. Umar is here. Hello to Umar from Pakistan. Good to have you here as well. I'm not stealing your ideas, and you need a lot of designs if you're going to, do this successfully. And there is no perfect way to render any single idea as a design. As we'll see here in a second, I've got some concepts here, some ideas that people have sent in, and you could literally go, several, maybe even hundreds of different ways, for each of these concepts. They are not, an idea is by its nature nebulous and vague. It's our job as designers to take ideas and concepts and try and crystallize them into, final designs. But there's very many, hundreds of different ways you could do that. There's no set way and there's no perfect way to take an idea and turn it into a design. So as we'll see here in a second, this is not about perfection. This is about trial and error and coming up with something that works. If you did send in an idea and I didn't pick it today, we have 3 concepts that I've picked out, which I think are the most helpful to work on. If I didn't pick it, probably because there wasn't much of a hook, by which I mean a joke or something that required, some degree of illustration or something to make it work. Some people sent in, just little phrases and things, but there was no real joke there. There was nothing I could get my teeth into and really help turn it into a design. So that's probably that's one thing to look for, maybe if you did send in something and I've not picked it. And we want ideas with legs. What I mean by that is when we're working on ideas and trying to filter your ideas, if you're anything like me, you have a big long list of ideas that you keep topping up, and you're engaged in the process of trying to analyze which might be your best ideas, which are most likely to sell, and then, trying to walk through that process. So one thing that I think these ideas that I've picked, they all have legs to some extent, which means that they can be sold on Redbubble, maybe merch by Amazon, on Etsy. They could be, licensed offline to brick and mortar stores. They could help you in the building of a brand. So they're designs that have, or ideas that have multiple applications. So we're not just talking about, a really simple design which could only sell on one platform. We're looking at ideas and designs which we can protect, which means we can put in some, protectable creations of our own, whether that's an illustration or the design approach. We're going to do something that could be copyrightable, so that we're protecting our work, and also it's going to be a design and something that can hit in various different places. So hope that makes sense. Noel says, hello, sorry I'm late. I was making the most of the rare nice UK weather. Yes, absolutely, we do need to make the most of it. Gary is here as well. Hello to you, Gary. Okay, let's dive into it today. So we have 3 ideas. These are the ideas. You can see them on your screen. This is what was sent to me. Idea number 1 from, I think this was from Jennifer. I think she sent in the first 2, actually. So garden hard was one of them, which was kind of a gardening idea around gardening, and then kind of like party hard, but garden hard instead. So we'll look at that one. Jennifer also suggested having a look at the UAPTF, which stands for Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, I think. So that was a good idea from Jennifer. We'll talk about that one as well. And then this final one, which I think was from Umar, which was Diamonds Are a Ghoul's Best Friend, which obviously a rhyme and replace pun. Diamonds are a girl's best friend. Diamonds are a ghoul's best friend. I thought that was a good idea that we could have a crack at, so we'll have a go at that one as well. So these are the 3 ideas which we'll have a look at. First up, Teddy says, do you think Redwall is having too much trouble? Will they stick around? I'm not sure what you're referring to, Teddy. I can't say I've experienced much trouble with Redbubble recently. So I'm not sure what you mean. I don't know whether you're talking about the stock price at the moment, which has been dropping. But you got to remember, Redbubble is a multi-million-dollar turnover company listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. I would be very surprised if they shut down operations for any reason. So yeah, I don't think they're going anywhere. Redbubble. Andy says hi from Suffolk. Hello to you. Okay, let's dive into this first design then. So the first one, Garden Hard. So this was sent in by Jennifer. So the idea here is, let me just pull up my iPad. 1 second. So yeah, the idea with Garden Hard. Share my iPad here so you can see my notes. So I wrote down these. This is my notes just from earlier today when I was trying to kind of prep a little bit for this session, and yeah, I wrote down the ones that I was most interested in. So Garden Hard was the first one. So this idea, I liked it because there's this clear juxtaposition between gardening on one hand and this kind of heavy metal idea, which appealed to me. Now, when I look back at the idea, I think Jennifer's idea was something like a gravestone with Garden Hard written on it and like flowers around it. What immediately came to mind for me was more of a kind of heavy metal vibe with like, kind of the skulls, the heavy metal pentagram kind of vibe, typical metal t-shirt type of style. And combining that with gardening, and I thought that was a nice, potential juxtaposition. Those are quite different things, gardening and heavy metal, and I thought that could be a promising, approach. And I like the simplicity of the phrase "garden hard." Obviously, kind of a reference to something like "party hard" or "do something hard," and then just switching it up with garden in there. So it's very simple. It's what I'd call maybe like a short and simple phrase. It's not immensely complicated. People either get it or they don't, but it's very simple and short and gives you options and ways to approach it. So I have a few different ways that we could have approached it. I'm going to walk you through my sketches here. 1 second. Let me just pull up my sketches. So the kind of big one that came to mind was this kind of approach of doing, something like a metal skull, and then kind of metal font, heavy metal font kind of vibe, with some gardening paraphernalia in the background or something like that. But other approaches I thought about, I started drawing out little things like gardening forks or trowels or things like that, and whether you could do something around that, or even something like a heavy metal hand with inside a gardening glove or something like that. That was one idea, but I thought that's not going to be obvious enough. But yeah, I think there are a number of ways you could take this idea. For example, I don't know how well you can see. Let me see if I can move this down a bit. For example, the phrase garden hard, you could do a kind of text only approach by which you could just write out garden hard in like a, heavy metal font or something, and just, maybe have some flowers around it or something like that. Just something really simple. So it's just a text only approach, but with an appropriate font, nicely designed with some supportive elements. That's one way you could go with something like this. And then you could go something a bit more graphic-y. So this is the approach I've taken with the skull. I also thought maybe you could do something kind of vintagey, like, some kind of vintage gardening illustrations or something like that. Maybe that would fit nicely with the phrase. And I also thought, you could go a more cartoony approach, like this little guy down here, like a watering can or something. You could do a little, you could do gardening elements with faces like rocking out or something like that. That's another direction you could have taken it in. I decided to go for the kind of skull approach. And I started with, let me pull this up. I started with looking for some basic skull stuff. And this is how it started. So this was my starting sketch, and then I drew this guy, and he was supposed to look basically like a gardener with like with some trowels or spades behind him, and then kind of a gardening hat. Not sure how well that came across. And I went through a few iterations of the actual graphic because I thought it needs to look not too scary. It needs to look like a quite happy kind of skull guy rather than a totally scary, freaky deaky dude. So these are the various variations this went through, and I think this one is my final one here. So I did this illustration with basic black and white, nothing too complicated here, and then a trowel and a gardening fork. And my idea was that we could do a like skull and crossbones thing. Skull and crossbones graphic, and then we could form that into a design. D says skulls are timeless. I like that idea. Also, the typography design with heavy metal font. Yes. Gerard is here from Nova Scotia, Canada. Thank you for joining us, Gerard. Umar says sunflower with a shovel rocking hard might look fine. Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of cartoony approach. You could have taken it down. Anything like that could have worked as well. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways you could take it. So this was my starting point was the illustration, and then what I'll do is I will switch over to Photoshop over here, and I will show you what this ended up looking like. So share my screen. So here's the Procreate illustration. I just brought it over into Photoshop. And then I don't really have a progress in between. I just have kind of my, not final, but this is kind of where I got to. So this is the design kind of as it stands. And so let me kind of talk you through my process here. So I picked out a font that I thought looked, nice and kind of heavy metalish. Put my skull in, added a bit of color here. Dropped my trowel and fork behind him in a kind of not heavy metal, but kind of, skull and crossbones way. And and then I started thinking, well, it'd be cool if we could fill in the space with some flowers. So I started doing that. But then it was getting to around lunchtime. I was getting a bit tired of it. And I don't know. I'm not sold on it. I don't think it's quite nailing it. I don't know what you guys think, but I think it's kind of in the right ballpark, but I'm not sure whether the font is right, whether the color choices could be better. And then I did a variation where I kind of got rid of the green and decided to go for more of a red look. Maybe that would look more heavy metal-y and stuff like that. But yeah, don't know. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. But this was my approach, and I've kind of given up on it for now and thought this is the kind of design maybe I'll sleep on and come back to the next day. But that's where I got to, and I don't know. I feel like maybe it's not quite clear enough. Maybe the gardening hat isn't that clear, so it doesn't look that obvious. But yeah, that's as far as I got with that one. Andy says, could I ask about dead space on the design? How would you solve it? Do you mean in general, Andy, like on any design, or are you talking about this design or something else? Let me know and I'll answer your question. Beth says maybe sunglasses would look cool. Yeah, I didn't really think about sunglasses. Yeah, that could maybe help. D says I think the design needs a more heavy metal font. Okay. Yeah, possibly that could help. Maybe if the flowers had color. Yeah. If the flowers had color. Yeah. I mean, my plan was not to leave it like this. My plan was to add, like green flowers and make these flowers red or something like that to vary up the colors a little bit. But yeah, I'm certainly not satisfied with kind of the colors as it looks. Thaddeus says, I can't make print screen if you keep moving it. You are very cheeky, Thaddeus. Lisa says, what about sunflowers in the eye sockets? Yeah, that could have been a good idea. Maybe some flowers around the skull. Maybe even more of a, I think mine's kind of a, not cartoony, but it's a, it's a pretty basic illustration. It's not like a detailed, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like a detailed illustration or a realistic illustration. So that approach of doing, skulls with flowers and something could have worked as well. Bo says, I like it, but wonder how many old lady gardeners would like heavy metal. Who is the who? That's a good question, Bo. I think that there is a nice kind of overlap. I think there is a crowd of young people into gardening and certainly into plants. There's a lot of, indoor plants and things like that. So I think there will be a fair amount of people who are gardening and maybe they're, they were metalheads in their youth. Now they're doing gardening and they, something like that would appeal. I think if you look on a site like lookhuman.com, there's a lot of those kind of designs, gardening, not like, I don't know what the word is, but whether it's gardening or cooking or DIY or, kind of around the housey jobs and things that 30-somethings are now, getting into and they're settling down and having kids, but they want something that looks cool and they're still harking back to the old days of their youth or something. So yeah, I think there is an appeal. It's probably not, like you say, going to be the old lady who's doing the gardening. It's going to be the young gardening crowd. But I do think there's an audience out there for it. D says, yes, flowers need color, and perhaps the shovel trowel needs a different color than the hat. Yeah, I think that's a good point too. Rick says, I think the hat is a good touch. Umar, we can get rid of the hat and put a mohawk. Yeah, I suppose you could, but then my concern would be, is it a bit too, you're leaning a bit too much to the metal side. Rian Beast, I'm also thinking the flowers need color. Okay, agreed. Raymond, well-aged shading could be used more in the wording. Yeah, definitely. I think things like that, like I say, this design is not finished. And I would do things like, add some shading, add some weathering effects and stuff like that to the text. So yeah, I would do stuff like that. Hello to Facebook user who I can't see your name. Jake says vines grow in and out of the skulls. Yeah, I think that's a good idea that we kind of missed off. I think what I'd have to do is rejig the design a bit. But yeah, I think definitely you could do some flowers and leaves and stuff in and out of the skull. That could work, definitely. Beth says maybe the font that the band Soundgarden uses. I'm not sure what that is off the top of my head. Rick says he thinks the older demographic, this would be good. And Lisa says lots of young men work in the landscaping business. Good point. D seems to agree. There is a crowd there. Susan says heavy metal fans are getting old. Beth says rocks and succulents. A bandana would be cool, says Candice. Yeah, I did wonder about a bandana, but is that, you don't really necessarily associate bandanas with doing gardening work, do you? Okay. All right. Let's wrap this one up then. So that's my garden hard approach. I do think font-wise, we could have picked some different ones. By the way, if you're looking for heavy metal-y horror fonts and things like that, there's a great site called sinisterfonts.com, which has a lot of free fonts. You will want to check the text file when you download it. When you get the zip, there'll be a TXT file in there which will tell you whether they're commercial free. A lot of them are commercial free, but not all of them. But sinisterfonts.com, if you're looking for stuff for like heavy metal-y, horror, Halloween-y type designs, then this is a good place to come and look, by the way. So make a note of that one. Candice says, lots of young men mow lawns and do landscaping. I could see the shirt being modified for that. And Facebook user says, love it as it is. Oh, thank you very much. Seifel says, very useful video. Thank you, Seifel. Okay, so that was our first idea. That was Garden Hard. So yeah, I kind of gave up on that one. I think if this was my idea, oh no, there was a couple of other things I wanted to share with you on that approach. Sorry, let me go back to Photoshop. So yeah, I mentioned that there's like, various different approaches you could take with this design. One of the ones I mentioned was that you could do something like a vintage gardening illustration or something. So I found a couple of different illustrations which are good examples of the kind of thing I mean. Here's one you can see here. So this is obviously not my illustration. This was just a clip art thing I nabbed just to illustrate the point. But this is like a little girl watering plants. So I think this kind of approach could work as well. So this is kind of a simple juxtaposition between the kind of metal text and the metal message behind the phrase. And then if you just juxtapose it with like a vintage kind of cutesy, not cutesy, but kind of, really vintagey illustration that you might expect to see on a kitchen wall or something, or something really vintagey. I just don't have a variation on the word vintage. So yeah, like this approach, or there was like this other one I found. Don't know how well you can see that, but like a guy, little dude pushing a wheelbarrow with flowers in. I think the very simple juxtaposition of that could work really well as well. Now, if this was me, I would, I'd use those illustrations as inspiration, and I'd redraw them by hand or draw something similar in a similar style. But I wouldn't just take these images as is, because they don't really look so great. But yeah, I think that approach could work. Again, maybe this font needs a bit of tweaking, but yeah, I think that approach could work as well. So that's just another way you could take it. The kind of vintagey illustration approach also creates a nice juxtaposition there. Okay, let me go back to my iPad here for a sec. And we will talk about our next idea. So the next one was, where was it? The UAPTF, which is the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, which was apparently set up last year to look at UFOs. And I know there's a lot of buzz around UFO stuff at the minute. So this, what's it called? Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. I don't know, how many people are searching for it and stuff, but it's certainly, if you do a search for, I don't know whether it's the full thing, but UAPTF. So there's not that many, shirts around it on Amazon or Redbubble and stuff. There's a few. And certainly if you do a search for like unidentified aerial phenomena task force, there's not task force shirt. There's not a lot out there, and there's not a lot that's very good. So whether it's a good, worthwhile approach or worthwhile design, I'm not sure. But it's the kind of thing that I would turn into a design on the off chance that it might work, especially as there's no real competition for it, and certainly the competition out there is not very good. So I've not turned this one into a design. All I've done is do some little sketches around it, and so an idea like this we've got here. This is the actual task force. If we do a search for it, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force is a real government agency, part of naval intelligence, apparently. You may know more about it than me if you're into your UFOs and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a real deal. They don't have a logo as far as I can see or anything. So basically what the idea would be to come up with a design or an idea to do a kind of logo for it. Now, you could take that in a kind of serious-y route, something that looks really official, or you could kind of do something a bit funnier. The thing that came to mind for me was see if I can find it here. I can see a ripped off version of it already, but the original, this one. So when the Space Force, United States Space Force thing was it Trump who set that thing up a couple of years ago? This one by Ronan Lynham, who is a very good, talented illustrator. And I don't know where you can see this, but here we go. So we've got United States Space Force, and it's like a spaceman punching an alien. So I thought this was really cool. It's taking obviously a real thing, but it's making a joke out of it. So if you could do something like that, where you could take this UAPTF and create a design like this, maybe that's, punching aliens is not really the point of the UAPTF. They're trying to discover what these unidentified craft are, or something like that, or to do research around them. But this approach and this design is just brilliant. The illustration style is perfect. The limited color choices, and obviously the funny image matched with the text is really good. So if you could do something like that, that would be great. Or you could kind of go down, the NASA logo approach. You could try and do a design like that. Or I thought maybe, something like the I think there's this is the one I had in mind, like something like this, or this kind of vintage NASA style thing. So people, this looks like the NASA logo, so maybe you could do something like that around the UAPTF. Hopefully you're getting the kind of direction I'm going in. So I sketched out some ideas on this, but I'd not really gone any further on it. So this was kind of one of them. This was an attempt to do that NASA logo in a, maybe it's a weird kind of triangle, weird kind of triangle thing, pyramid thing, blasting off into space, and then you do it with the same kind of vintage colors and stuff. So that was one approach. And then I thought probably what might be easier would be just like a simple kind of logo badge. Maybe it's a UFO in the middle with unidentified aerial phenomena task force, and then maybe you do something like like a funny kind of joke or quote underneath it, something like, what was that thing, or what the hell was that, or I don't know, something like that could be a funny approach. And then just kind of developing it into trying to do a kind of badge design, something that's more looks like a you do like a UFO in the middle, you have your text around the sides, and you make it look like a proper legit army badge or army decal or something like that would work. So a couple of approaches there. I haven't rendered any of them because I ran out of time, and I spent my time on the last one. But I think that's a decent idea, and I think if you did something like that, that's the kind of idea, that's the kind of direction I would take an idea like that, and be perfectly happy with it. So that's that one. Finally, we have this one from Umar, I believe, which was "Diamonds are a ghoul's best friend," which obviously is a nice, funny pun, a rhyme and replace pun, replacing girls with ghouls in this well-known idiom or phrase, and then we can imagine a design around that. So the direction I'd say, a couple of comments here before we crack on with that one. FH says, Raymond said, a little girl gardener with a monster gardening tool. Yeah, that could work. FH says, love this session, just in since a few minutes and got helpful insights. Awesome. Greetings from Dusseldorf. Wonderful. Thank you, FH. Scott says, NASA obviously doesn't pursue IP issues. I don't know whether they do or not. I think they certainly do license stuff. And I think you would probably get refused from using NASA stuff. But obviously, if you're playing on the NASA logo and you're not using the word NASA, that's a different kettle of fish completely. Umar says, bring in elements of Stargate. D says, this one is so esoteric, it's not as fun. Yeah, I think it's not as fun as Garden Hard, but no less solid an idea, potentially. Alan, can you use a government department title? Army and Navy are very protective and will pursue. It's a good question, Alan. I think, if you look at the United States Space Force thing, that was technically a government agency. There's plenty of those designs up on Redbubble. I don't think the government is that interested in pursuing copyright and things like that. I think certain places will block you, like Amazon will block you from using Navy or Army or stuff like that, because they don't want you pretending to be official Navy stuff. But I think, using something like the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, obviously that is getting through on Amazon. It's getting through on Redbubble. It's just that there's not many people doing it. So could well be worth it. And I wouldn't be worried about using that, because until the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force starts producing their own merch and selling it, I don't think you need to worry. Lance says you can use NASA for most stuff, not images that depict the likeness of astronauts. Okay, so there you go. All right, so diamonds are a ghoul's best friend. The approach I started with this is very simple. We have a very funny little phrase, and it's almost crying out for a little illustration to go alongside it. So the direction I started with is this kind of vibe. Diamonds are a ghoul's best friend. We do a nice design of a diamond and a ghost holding hands. Just writes itself, really. Pretty simple stuff. Almost too simple, but I could see this, working. Certainly works as a t-shirt design. Could work on various other products, and whether it's stickers or phone cases or books or things like that. I think it could work. So this is how I kind of started with this approach. Sketched out some ideas like that. Then I wondered about doing something where they're a bit closer together, or kind of in a circle or something. Or maybe you could do something where they're a bit closer together, so it's a bit more fun. And then this kind of return to where I started, really. Or I did think about doing maybe diamonds plural, so having multiple diamonds, just to kind of make it a little bit tighter, or a little bit more interesting visually. But I kind of returned to this approach and just thought, rendering this in a simple way, it's probably the best way to go with a design like this. I'm Just a Dad says, I believe the NASA emblem is in the Creative Commons. Okay, so there we go. Guess maybe it is legit to use, but who knows? You can try it yourself. Of course, if you're using the NASA logo, it's no longer really your design anyway. So of limited application, I think, the NASA approach. Raymond says, Diamond Girl, Ghoul Monster Boy. Yeah, I've kind of gone for a simple ghost rather than any monster. Of course, you could go that route, but I think simpler the better in this approach. So what did I do next? I have illustrated this, and it started with this one here. So I just thought, let's keep it as simple as possible, and this was my simple sketch, and then I added in the colors and stuff and just made it pretty much as simple as I could do, and still keeping it looking something like a diamond and a ghost. And I hope it looks pretty close to that. Has a little bit of personality to it, but it's still a pretty simple illustration. So taking that and bringing that over into Photoshop is the next step. So that's what I did, and ended up with something like this. So this was my first kind of approach. and I think it works pretty well. It's a nice limited color palette. I think you can see this working on a T-shirt. This could clearly work as a Halloween joke, even a Halloween card. Do people give Halloween cards? I don't think so. But like a postcard or a little funny joke or whatever for Halloween, and certainly would work as a T-shirt and other products like that. So obviously what I've done here is we've got a bit of curvature on the text at the top, diamonds RA, and then we've emphasized the word ghouls, and we've put ghouls on a bit of an angle, a bit of a slant to shake it up a little bit. So diamonds are a ghoul's best friend, and I've used colors which are quite complementary. We've got this kind of what would you call that? Greeny blue approach, and then with a kind of ever so slightly pinky looking red. So it's not quite a full-blooded red, but yeah, it's a slightly off that. And I think that color palette just really works well. Works very well on black. And if we change this black to like a navy, I think we'll find it works perfectly well there too. There we go. Just make that stroke match the background. So yeah, diamonds are a ghoul's best friend. So that was one approach. And then there's my original illustration. And then I just wondered whether we could go a little bit of a different, well, not a different direction, but just kind of something a bit more circular instead of this, because this design is a little bit, I mean, this is perfect for a T-shirt actually, because it's going to perfectly fit the canvas of a shirt. It's going to start up here. We can maximize it. It's going to be nice and big. But I did wonder whether we could do something that's a bit more kind of on an angle. So if you'll bear with me, I'll have a little crack at that while you're watching. So what I had in mind was, so I've mixed up the fonts a little bit here. Umar says, looks cute. Candy says, I like that, very cute. And Candy says, a Halloween engagement tee. Yeah, it could work for that, definitely. Bo says they sell lots of Halloween cards in the US. And Anna Holloway says, how about giving the diamond maybe some vampire wings, fangs, etc., to reinforce the macabre angle? Yeah, I think that may be just going a bit too far. I think it could work. If it works, then simple is best. What's the famous saying? It's not finished when there's nothing else to add. It's finished when there's nothing else to take away. So if it works at the simplest level, I'd like to, as most as possible, keep it that way. Candy says Ghost could be a cute little zombie too. Yeah, there's lots of ways you could use the ghoul thing. It could be a zombie. It could be something else. The Ghost of Sperm. Yeah, he does look a bit spermy. Fair play, Drew. But yeah, it was a quick illustration, and it was not intended to ever be uploaded as is. Okay, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna flip this path, and then I'm gonna try and get my text in here. So what I'm thinking here is if maybe a circular design might look a little bit more appropriate. What's this font called here? Exquisite Corpse is the name of the font. So ghouls, diamonds are a ghoul's best friend. Thank you, Drew. Beth, maybe eyelashes on the ghost to make it look more girly. Oh yeah, that could work, definitely. That wouldn't be overkill, I don't think. So yeah, what I'm doing here is just having a play around with trying to do more of a circular design. And if we change this one to Exquisite Corpse, and we need to sort out our kerning here because this is a bit messed up. Make this color, make this a bit bigger. So just playing around with the kerning and stuff and just trying to see if this would work in more of a circular type approach. And I'm not convinced at the moment. I think we may have had it right first time. But you could certainly go that direction with it as well. You could even add in a little see if there's one here. I was just thinking you could add in even a little love heart between the two of them just to make it even more so. But okay, I think we'll leave that there. That makes sense, right? Beth says, eyelashes on the ghost. Yes, got that one. Stephen, on a side note, do you prefer to work in PSD for this type of work? I would be in AI. I personally am a Photoshop veteran, and I've never really graduated to Adobe Illustrator. I can use Illustrator when I have to, but I'm a lot quicker and more efficient in Photoshop. And I find that the differences are negligible. You know, when you're working at high resolution in Photoshop, you can always vectorize it if you want to. And when you're doing this kind of illustration, you know, you're not really going to lose anything. Like I can bring this over to Illustrator and okay, you might lose a little bit of the detail, but it's going to be completely negligible. It's not going to be noticeable when you turn that into a finished design that's going to be printed on a shirt because you're working on high resolution in Photoshop anyway. So that's the only reason I stick with Photoshop. If I was, you know, learning now from scratch, I would probably be more in Illustrator or even in Affinity Designer or something like that for a cheaper alternative. But yeah, there's certainly benefits to going the vector route for this kind of thing. But I am just a Photoshop addict and I'm kind of stuck in my ways at the moment. Umar says he would prefer Illustrator. Scott would Inkscape it. Dawn says 2 lines on circle bottom. 2 lines on circle bottom. Not sure what you mean there, Dawn. I will leave that there. I did have the idea of doing... Oh, where did it go? Oh yeah, like you could do like a little... I mean, that could be a love heart shape as well or something just to kind of tie it together and maybe get a little bit more color in there just to mix it up a bit. So we've got this kind of design or this approach. But I think either way, this goes back to, you know, what I was saying earlier. There's no perfect way to render a design like this. There's just variations on, you know, there's a million different ways you could do it. You could change fonts, you could change the illustration style. There's all kinds of approaches. The main thing, of course, is to keep it simple, understandable, recognizable, and accessible to people who might be buying it. So as long as you do those things, you know, you're keeping yourself within those limits, then however you want to take it is really fine. Umar says, my Redbubble account got suspended. Any way I can get it reinstated? I'm not sure, Umar. I'm afraid I'm not a Redbubble staff member. So I would reach out to them at least a couple of times and see if you can get someone to take a look at your situation. But I'm afraid I don't know. You know, I'm sure people have had accounts reinstated. So I would certainly try that. Candice, I just started using Procreate, so now can turn that into vector in Illustrator. Yeah, absolutely. Like I drew this in Procreate. This could very easily be brought over into Illustrator and vectorized, live traced, or whatever. You could redraw this very quickly in Illustrator, of course, as well, because it's a very simple illustration in the first place. D really likes Affinity Designer. Lance says he likes designers doing all the work. Raymond says white color for ghoul's lettering, red heart on ghoul. Yeah, you could play around with the colors, certainly. Beth, it might also be fun to give the ghost a beauty mark to give her a nod to Marilyn Monroe, as she is given credit for the quote. Oh, nice. An extra little joke, a little nod there from Beth. So yeah, that's a nice idea, definitely. Amira says, loved that one better without the circle. Without the circle. So I think Dee's talking about this one, but without the circle. Yeah. Either or. Personal preference, but yeah. Just goes to show there's a million different ways to render stuff. Facebook user says, save this video, save for later. Yes, this video will be immediately available as soon as it's finished. You can go back now and start watching from the start if you want. That's no problem at all. So I think we will leave our designing there. I think that's pretty much everything I had to share on those 3 ideas. So we had the garden hard idea, a couple of different approaches to that one, but not really 100% finished or happy with that one. I'd say I'm a much happier person when it comes to diamonds are a ghoul's best friend. That's much more my kind of bread and butter, silly little puns with characters with faces that are easy to illustrate. And yeah, you could see how if you had a few designs and ideas like this, you could churn those out pretty quickly and do, at least maybe do a few a day and yeah, and get through them. Whereas the, I just think I kind of hit a bit of a stumbling block with that one. But again, if you're pretty efficient, you can get through these designs pretty quickly. So yeah, hope that's been helpful. If you have any questions, we've got about 5 minutes left, 10 minutes left. So if you want to drop a question and get my opinion on something before we wrap it up here today, please do so. And while you're thinking of your next questions, we can take some comments here. Scott says he had a speck on his monitor, which gives her a beauty mark already. So there you go. Beth says maybe make the circle a heart. Yeah, I think that could work as well with this other one. If this was a heart behind them, that could be a nice shape to tie it together, or even a little bit of heart up here. A couple of little red love hearts between them could just add in a bit of the pinky red just to tie it together as well. Candice, I would throw in a few little sparkles to represent night and sparkle of diamond. I think overall it's a great design. Yeah, that's some nice little touch-up bits, bit of a sparkle on the diamond. Yeah, any little background elements that you could add would be fine. But yeah, I think this is a simple design. You don't want to overload it and overthink it with too much stuff going on. I think it does work pretty well as is. But yeah, certainly simple little touches like that would make it extra good. Umar says, great idea. Thumbs up. Candy says, love your ideas workshop, by the way. The only course I can see myself paying for every year. Oh, that is good news, Candy. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we are definitely going to keep adding stuff to the Ideas Workshop so that it will become truly irresistible, and you won't be able to drag yourself away from it. You'll want to buy it every single year. Amira says she likes the other design, not that one. Candy says you should do a Procreate for T-shirt designs tutorial. I did do a session on that a few months ago, I think. If you go and look on my YouTube channel, I did a session where I drew in Procreate and kind of walked through that process. So yeah, go and check that out if you haven't already. I'm Just a Dad says, do you use any batch upload sites for Redbubble and or merch? No, I do not. I employ staff. I employ my brother-in-law, and he does most of our uploading for us. So that's the approach I've taken with that. I just don't really trust any batch upload tool. I'm very kind of cautious and wary, especially when you don't have relationships with these websites. I think any bit of suspicious activity on your account could lead to suspensions or worse. So yeah, I think it's just a bit risky using stuff like that. I know plenty of people do. That's personal choice, but personally, I prefer to do things on the manual way. The only tool we do use is Merch Wizard, which helps you certainly speeds up your progress when you're uploading, but it doesn't automate the uploading. You still have to do it, but it does make it a lot easier. That's merchwizard .app if you don't already know about that. Beth, is it too late to jump on the Ideas Workshop? You're not able to get in right now, Beth, but we will be opening the doors again soon. I don't know how soon. We're working on some updates currently, but it will be open again. You know, we open it several times a year. So if you want to find out more, michaelessic.com/ideas, and you can put your email in there. You'll be added to the wait list, and you'll be the first to know when it opens up again. Candice says, great, I will search for that tutorial, no problem. Lance says, Ideas Workshop, resistance is futile. Yeah, definitely. That's what we're going for. Thaddeus says, can you make an interview with Ronan Linham? Linham, I think it might be. I would love to do an interview with Ronan. I think I actually approached him and asked him, but I think he didn't. He wasn't down for doing one. But I will revisit that approach. I have emailed and contacted a lot of t-shirt designers, and a lot of them are just a bit shy. They don't want to be, you know, put forward. They don't want to talk on camera and stuff, which I completely understand. But yeah, I will. I'll be reaching out to artists and designers, and actually next week, fingers crossed, we should have an interview for next week's live session. So we're going to have a guest on next week's live stream. It won't just be me. We'll have a special guest, hopefully, fingers crossed. Dee says he uses Merch Titans for batch, and it's fine. Raymond says, thanks for all this help. Lisa says, using Redbubble as an example, if you are a brand new seller, how do you get to the first 1 to 3 pages for a search result on your concept? Well, the key thing, Lisa, is to create designs around a keyword or a search term which is not already very saturated. So if you're creating designs, for example, around the unidentified aerial phenomenon task force, you know, there's maybe 100 designs or something there on Redbubble right now. It's going to be relatively easy to get you on the front page of that. So lower competition, you know, searches and topics are the way to get results. That's definitely where I would start. It's with, you know, you don't want to be creating designs for Father's Day or generic stuff for Christmas or Halloween. You want to be creating very specific, niche, you know, small, low competition ideas and designs. That would be the place to start. So yeah, hope that helps. Obviously, it is possible to go too niche, but as long as you're targeting something that some people might be searching for, then that's the approach I would certainly recommend. Okay, so while we're on that topic, let me remind you to go ahead and sign up at michaelessic.com/live. You can get free resources and stuff from me. Every week I send out a brand new Tuesday tip email with a particular bit of advice or tips or something to help you sell more designs and create better work. You'll also get instant access to my 5 ways to improve your ideas ebook, which is completely free. You'll get fonts for t-shirt resources pack, which is a cool resource for containing lots of cool fonts that I recommend and use. The idea files ebook and my spreadsheet data with different information about the best print on demand sites. You can get all of that immediate access at michaelessic.com/live. So do go ahead and sign up there if you haven't already. WM says, how can you identify niche searches in Redbubble? Not really sure I understand the question. You can search Redbubble for a particular phrase and you can see how many results are there, and that's how you can figure out whether it's high competition or low competition. So hope that answers that for you. If not, please try and rephrase the question and I will have another swing at it. So yeah, michaelessic.com/live. And also, if you're interested in art licensing, by which I mean getting your designs and your products and artwork in brick and mortar stores or licensed through manufacturers and retailers and stuff, then check out michaelessic.com/Stacy, because there is a free course launching next week by Stacey Bloomfield. She is an art licensing expert. I get a lot of questions about art licensing, And this is a expert that you want to learn from. I'm looking forward to learning what she has to say about licensing art. She has done art licensing way beyond what I've done. So yeah, michaelessick.com/Stacey if you want to sign up for that free course. That is an affiliate link, so if you do ever buy something from Stacey, I will get a cut of it. But a free course there that you can find out a bit more about art licensing, which is happening next week at michaelessick.com/Stacey. Okay. I think I don't see any last minute questions, but I'll give you guys 30 seconds or so to get one in. I think that will bring us to a close today. We've just gone over an hour. I hope that was helpful. Hope you got something out of it. Hope those designs were fun and interesting for you. Rick says, thanks heaps. No problem. And yeah, should be back next week, same time. Fingers crossed we'll have a special guest with us. And in the meantime, make sure you're signed up, michaelessick.com/live. And I will put the link for that in the comments. I always forget to do that. Lisa says, thanks, Michael, for being so honest and open. No problem. Bo says, thanks. Scott says, thanks for the sesh. No problem, Scott. And I'll also pop in the comments the link for Stacey Bloomfield's free art licensing course. Steve says, cheers, Michael. Entertaining and informative as usual. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. So michaelessick.com/live. If you want to join my mailing list, which is completely free, and you get loads of free stuff. And if you're interested in Stacey Bloomfield's free art licensing course, which is launching next week, then michaelessick.com/Stacey to sign up for that. All right. Thank you, guys. Hope you had a good session here today. Hope you got something out of it. And I will talk to you all tomorrow in your email inboxes, or I will see you next week. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. Have a good rest of your Thursday and a good weekend. See you soon. Okay. Bye-bye.